Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. So there's a shiny new Avengers clip out, so I thought it was time to do a new bonus video. And since I haven't talked about Loki in a while, I wanted to talk about what he's been doing while Age of Ultron is going on. Because the next time we're going to see him, that's been confirmed, is Thor 3. Idris Elba did spoil a few things, but I won't repeat those here, just in case you guys haven't read them and you don't want spoilers for any of the movies before Thor 3. Most of you probably know what I'm talking about though. I know there were some Captain America Civil War rumors. I'll talk about those after I get through Loki, Avengers, Thor 3 stuff. So just to add some context, most of you probably know Thor 3 is called Ragnarok, and you're probably familiar with the Thor clone called Ragnarok. Really, he's like an android clone that Tony Stark created during Civil War in the comics. That's not going to be what the Thor 3 movie is about. It'll be a proper Thor movie in space. It'll be closer to what Jack Kirby and Stan Lee did in Tales of Asgard. They did a Ragnarok storyline in that. If you have Marvel Unlimited, you can read it for free. It's a great classic story. Loki leads an invading force against Asgard, kind of like he did in the first Thor movie, including the Fire Lord Surtur, who breaks Asgard. Most of them die, and a bunch are reborn after the fact, kind of reinvigorating the characters. There's a really cool story behind the story with respect to Stan Lee, Jack Kirby's Ragnarok. It has a lot to do with Jack Kirby's Fourth World. Like he wanted to kill all the Thor characters and give birth to the new gods. Like they were going to replace the Asgardian characters in the comics, in Marvel Comics. The rumor is that Jack Kirby wanted to own his Fourth World characters and Marvel wasn't down with that. They were just doing creator for hire stuff. So he took them to DC. So that's why DC has the new gods. Obviously, Jack Kirby went on to a great career at DC, but it's just a really interesting story about how he was going to destroy all the Thor characters in the comics, which I thought was pretty funny. As you'd expect, Marvel's going to take aspects of that story and adapt it into their movie universe. Obviously, they always change like little things based on characters they've already developed or elements that they're working with in other movies. Like the way they changed the Guardians of the Galaxy backstory, changing Ultron's backstory, you get the idea. I know a lot of you are asking like how all these Phase 3 movies are going to fit together because there's way more of them than there were during Phase 2. So what's going to happen is some of them will pick up in the same timeline. Like even though they come out like, 6 months after each other, some of them will occur in the same time frame. So Avengers Age of Ultron ends, Captain America Civil War picks up right after that, and then a couple movies later, Thor 3 also picks up right after that. It sounds weirder than it is. Here's the actual Phase 3 lineup. So Captain America Civil War is the beginning of Phase 3. That comes right after Ant-Man. Ant-Man is like the tail end of Phase 2. Then comes Doctor Strange, Guardians 2, Thor Ragnarok, Avengers Infinity War Part 1, Black Panther, Captain Marvel, Infinity War Part 2, and then Inhumans is shutting down Phase 3 before Phase 4 starts. If you guys listen to Chris Hardwick's Nerdist podcast, he just interviewed Brian Michael Bendis, and Bendis said that he is reading Phase 4 scripts right now. Like, they're actually writing those movies. So he said they're really exciting, but he couldn't say anything about them. Just working in reverse from Infinity War to Age of Ultron. Infinity War is supposed to be like where shit goes crazy on a galactic scale. Everyone's fighting each other, big war in space. Think of Thor 3 as like the bomb that goes off that makes everything explode. Ragnarok is all about the idea of destruction and rebirth. So as stuff starts to go crazy through Phase 3, there'll be, something of a metaphorical rebirth of characters. And literally, some stuff will be destroyed and new stuff will be born out of it. The most important person in all this, as you would expect, is Loki. Not only because he's a big part of the original Ragnarok story, but because he is a master at playing both sides. So what does he have to do with what's going on in Avengers Age of Ultron? Well, think about it this way. Tony Stark takes a very notable scepter, puts it in his lab, it accidentally helps create a sentient robot that wants to kill everyone. Loki needs to get that back. If you guys remember during the Marvel Phase 3 announcement, Kevin Feige did a Q&A where he thankfully confirmed the Mind Gem is in Loki's scepter. That plays a big role in the creation of Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, and Ultron. We don't really know about Vision. It could have something to do with the creation of Vision, but there's a lot of rumors that the Soul Gem could have something to do with that too. The only thing we know is confirmed is Loki's scepter. And during the first Avengers movie, it was given to him on loan by Thanos. Thanos gave him the scepter and an army of Chitauri warriors in exchange for retrieving the Tesseract. None of those things ended up happening. He didn't take the Earth, the army was destroyed, and the scepter was left in the possession of humans. So at some point, Thanos is going to collect, so Loki is going to have to do something to get that back. While he's masquerading as Odin, Loki also has possession, or at least access to, the Infinity Gauntlet, which was last seen in Odin's vault. I don't think we've seen it since the first Thor movie, which is actually a long, long time ago. So let's just assume it's still there, unless told otherwise. After the first Avengers movie, they also took the Tesseract back there, although it didn't seem like it was referenced during Thor: The Dark World. If you remember at the beginning of that movie, when he first meets with Jane Foster, he explains the relics that predate the universe. That was him talking about the Infinity Stones. There's a lot of unanswered questions as to why Loki would want to free Surtur, why it would end up destroying Asgard, but it probably has something to do with him and Thanos and their relationship. Loki wants to be king of Asgard more than anything. He made a deal that he did not fulfill, so maybe that's what leads to Ragnarok. I know a lot of you are asking, where is Odin in all this? What happened to him at the end of Dark World? Anthony Hopkins said some very ominous things, but it's all conjecture. It was just him speculating. He made some offhanded comments saying like, I've made 2 films, that's enough, I'm done. I don't know what happened to him, maybe he's dead. Really, I think Odin is just stuck in their version of the afterlife with Hala. I think that Thor Ragnarok will deal with that idea, like the idea of the Asgardian afterlife. Basically all the Thor things that you've wanted to see, but they haven't done in movies yet. The reason that idea gets me really excited, because, if Thor is going to beat Loki in Thor Ragnarok, if it's going to be like Thor versus Loki, then that means that Thor might take possession of the Odin Force by the end, and it'll become the Thor Force. That's basically Odin's life force. Over the last 50 years, they've explored the powers that the Odin Force gives Odin and Thor in a lot of different ways, but basically, it is like the most powerful cosmic force you can have next to Infinity Stones, which means it could play a big role in Infinity War Part 2. Thor is rumored to be absent in Infinity War Part 1, but I don't think they would leave him out of Part 2. And if you're going to fight someone who has all of the Infinity Stones, wouldn't you want someone who is in possession of the Odin Force? That's all speculation, but I feel like before Chris Hemsworth vacates the role, like in his last couple of films, they're going to elevate him to King of Asgard. And in order to do that, he gets to go through this big crucible, which, implies that he might die and then come back to life. It's always fun to see like older versions of Thor from the future in the comics. He acts a lot more like Odin. He's way grumpier. He's way less fun. There was a comic recently that kind of bound a bunch of Thors across space and time to fight this one single villain. The older Thor always tells young Thor, kill your brother now. Don't wait. Kill him now. It's so dark and so awesome. I know there were a lot of questions after like one of the last Avengers trailers, because you see Thor thrashing around and this woman that looks kind of like Hala. I think he'll hallucinate the Asgardian afterlife. Like he'll hallucinate some Norse gods. Scarlet Witch is going to be doing just some awesome things with their brains. So I think that's where we'll get our first taste of the Asgardian afterlife. But it will be a hallucination. It won't be like Thor actually dying. It'll just be him hallucinating it. Speaking of Galactic War, I know everyone's wondering what's going to happen to Ultron at the end of Avengers 2, because they can't leave him on Earth because he'll just inhabit other technology. In the comics, this is actually really cool. He was the reason that the first Guardians team got together. He started Annihilation Conquest. Because the first Guardians movie changed a lot of their backstory, they can still do Annihilation Conquest in the future. So they could do that for like Guardians 3. I'm not expecting to see Ultron during Infinity War, but it is totally possible. It's been so long since we've seen Red Skull that it's like, once they retire a big villain, once they beat him, usually they don't come back right away. So here's my big question for you guys. Loki needs the scepter. Scepter still on Earth in Age of Ultron. How do you think that Loki is going to get the scepter back? I know it all sounds a little bit complicated, like with all these Phase 3 movies, especially the ideas of Ragnarok and how it all ties together. Don't worry though, Marvel basically makes these movies so that you can go in cold. Even if you don't read comics, you haven't seen any of the other ones, you should be able to follow each of the movies. I will say though, it's a lot more fun if you get Marvel Unlimited and just go on their basic recommendations. They do have like movie rails where it's like, hey, learn more about these stories from the movies. Usually I try to make suggestions like the Avengers Age of Ultron story video that I did a while ago, but just browse around. It's like the best way to spend a Saturday afternoon. And it's super cheap. And just to address the Captain America rumors, Captain America Civil War, the rumor is that an Avenger will die during Age of Ultron and they won't be part of Civil War. Most of the Avengers appear in Civil War, but there's been like a lot of posters with one notable omission. So people are like, oh, that character is probably the one that dies, the one that's missing. In case you don't want spoilers, don't worry, I'm not going to mention that character's name. From what I've read, the rumor is born out of an old version of the shooting script for Age of Ultron. Personally, I would just ignore it. They start shooting Captain America Civil War April 1st. I know it sounds like April Fool's, like it's a joke, but it's not a joke. They are actually shooting. So in case you guys haven't seen it yet, you can click here for my last Avengers trailer breakdown. So much fun. We get to see the Vision finally. And you can click here to learn all about Scarlet Witch in the comics. Obviously the movie is doing a little bit different, but I tried to incorporate that into the video. So thank you so much for watching. I know since all you guys want high fives to come back, I'll say high fives. See you guys tomorrow.